We're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome again, everyone. On behalf of Economic Development Collaborative, um, the EDC, I welcome you to this afternoon's webinar. My name is Juliana Ramirez. Our Communications and Business Disruption Resource Director, Claire Brillo, could not be with us today, but I still welcome you on behalf of our organization. Again, I'm Juliana Ramirez. I'm a business advisor, financial advisor with EDC, helping small business owners navigate the resources available due to COVID-19 and beyond. So welcome again for joining us. We have been keeping you up to date since over a year ago now. So we thank you for continuing to trust us and continuing to join us every afternoon. We hope that you continue supporting us as much as we want to continue supporting you. So welcome. And we are joined by Emily Varani and her team from Visionality, who will be sharing some housekeeping items. Emily.
Yes, thank you all for being with us yet again. So a little bit of housekeeping. This is being recorded. You'll get a link to the recording after. Put any questions in that Q&A section, which is at the bottom of your screen. Now, if you're calling in today with a phone, you don't have access to that Q&A. And so I want you to do one of two things. Number one, you can email us your questions, and the email address is webinar@edccollaborative.com. So again, because I know you're scrambling to get your pen, you can email your questions to webinar@edccollaborative.com. Or we're going to be putting the hotline in the chat at the end of the webinar. And so if we're not able to get to your question today, go ahead and call EDC and set up a meeting direct, and we can answer all your questions. Also, if you have any tech issues, put those in the chat and our team will address them. And one more thing, we're doing these for as long as you guys need us to, so just watch your email. The schedule is changing a little bit, so just watch your email so you know when to show up next time. Thanks for being here.
Yay, thank you, Emily. And today we're going to, we know and understand that there's a lot of information out there, and there's thankfully a lot of resources, and it's hard to navigate these resources. Today we're gonna give you an update on the California Relief Grant, which we've shared, hasn't changed much since our last webinar. Also the California COVID-19 rent relief program. If you're not aware of that, or if you have questions related to that, we'll go over some of the details for that. The Ventura County, for those attendees who are here visiting us from Ventura County, the second COVID-19 Business Assistance Grant Program will be opening soon. There's a new stimulus package that was just signed not even more than a week ago. So we will go over what's new there, and we'll focus a little bit more on the Restaurant Revitalization Fund as well, which is part of this newest package. And of course, Q&A. Again, if you have any questions related to any of the programs that we have shared with you in the past, anything and everything, please post them. We will do our best to answer them towards the end of the webinar, or at the Q&A section. So please post them.
I'm going to break in one time because I misspoke and I gave the wrong email address. So the correct email address is webinar@edcollaborative.com. So there's not two C's. Webinar@edcollaborative.com. Sorry for the confusion, everyone.
All right. Well, thank you. All right. Well, as you all know, on February 23rd, Governor Newsom signed into law a comprehensive package providing urgent relief for small businesses of California. And the package provides an additional $2.075 billion, which was a four-fold increase over the original $500 million currently being distributed, or that were being distributed at that time, for grants up to $25,000 for small businesses impacted by the pandemic. And it especially allocated $50 million of this total for nonprofit cultural institutions. The California Office of Small Business Advocate announced that new funding rounds for California small businesses grant program we're opening starting March 5th. It's been long now since then, and we know we are now into that fourth round. The program is being managed by Lendistry, and all updated information can be reviewed at careliefgrant.com. Our call center and advisors are also available to work with clients to answer general questions and help with document uploads, new applications, and non-technical related questions. I do want to make sure that you understand that attending this webinar does not make you a client. However, if you're already a client, then you definitely access our resources. If you're not a client yet, we encourage you to call our hotline and become one of our clients so we can assist you at no cost. As I mentioned, round 4, which is specific for nonprofit arts and cultural institutions only, it opened up on March 16th, and it's going to be through March 23rd. Once again, it's only for nonprofit arts and cultural institutions with any revenue size that meet the eligibility criteria. The grants are 5,000 to 25,000, depending on the revenue. And the eligible nonprofit cultural institutions must complete a new application, even if they already applied in rounds 1 and 2. Grants will only be available to nonprofits that did not receive funding in rounds 1, 2, or 3, and they'll be prioritized based on the documented percentage revenue declines based on a reporting period comparing quarter 2 and quarter 3 versus quarter 2 of 2020 versus quarter 2 and quarter 3 of 2019. So once again, remember that if you've applied in round 1 and 2 and received and were a nonprofit and already received a grant, or have been awarded a grant, then you would not be eligible for this under this round. It is the California Relief Grant it's a one-time. It is also not on a first come, first serve. So again, if you are a nonprofit, arts and cultural institution and have not applied, we encourage you to do so. Round five will be for new applicants and waitlisted individuals, and it's going to open up on March 25th through Wednesday, March 31st. The eligible applicants for this round are going to be new eligible applicants and waitlisted applicants from round 1, 2, or 3, and they'll be moved in automatically into round 5. So if you are someone that applied since round 1 and have been told that you've been waitlisted, there's still hope, because there's going to be a round 5 and round 6 that you'll be automatically rolled into if you've been told that you are waitlisted. So again, don't lose hope. The grant awards will still be 5,000 to 25,000 depending on your revenue. Again, those not selected in the first rounds do not need to reapply, as they will be automatically moved into round 5. So you don't need to do anything else other than wait. And if you are a new applicant, then we encourage you to visit the website so that you can look into the guides, and I'll give you a bit more information on that. Round 6 is yet to be announced. And again, it'll still consider those waitlisted as well as new applicants, and the same guidelines will apply. Quick reminder as to how applicants will be determined. Number 1, they're going to be determined based on geographic distribution, based on COVID-19 health and safety restrictions, industry sectors most impacted by the pandemic, nonprofit mission services most impacted by the pandemic, and disadvantaged communities tracked by socioeconomic indicators. If you are an existing applicant, here's a quick snapshot of the opportunities to be selected. If you were waitlisted from 1, round, and 2, and round 3, then you will have an opportunity during round 5 and 6. If you are an arts and cultural nonprofit, then you'll have a chance in round 4, 5, and 6. Um, for new applicants, you have the ability to apply as a new applicant if you're a small business, round 5 or 6. And for arts and no cultural nonprofits, if you are a new applicant, you have the chance now during the round 4, or if you are not selected, you will rolled into round 5 or 6. And all nonprofits will have the chance as new applicants between in round 5 or round 6. Before applying, or if you've already applied, make sure that you understand, that you review and understand the program and application guides. There's also videos that you can watch on the application process. We encourage you to prepare your required documents. If there is any questions related to this, please feel free to post them on the Q&A. We'll do our best to answer those. And then you will also be required to find and apply through a partner. We are a partner with the California Small Business Relief Grant Program. And so if you go to the website, you'll be able to select us as a partner and you can apply through us. Once again, key information, just to get your documentation ready. There's going to be a signed certification used to certify your business that you're going to be required to complete and sign. Your business financial information, your most recent tax return file, either 19 or 18, provided in a document that is digitally, uploadable. So make sure that you have that information handy. If you are a corporation or a registered business with the California Secretary of State, you will be required to provide that document to certified or for verification purposes. As the principal of the business or the organization, you're also going to be required to provide your photo ID, such as your driver's license or passport. One complete application will qualify you to be considered for both rounds, or for really the rounds, depending on when you apply. So please apply only once. We have learned that when you apply multiple times, that slows down the process or puts you in a category that will take longer for them to verify you or get to your file. However, if you are not certain, if you've applied and are not certain and you have yet to hear, the best recommendation is to contact Landistry. But before that, if you need assistance with figuring out what type of documentation, if you've done the application right, if you're not certain, what the status is as far as, you don't know how you applied or if you applied, things like that, anything related to technical assistance, please contact us. And when you already know you applied and are having trouble signing in, you already had signed in one time and now you're having trouble signing in again, this is where you want to contact Landistry. And their call center is available Monday through Friday from 7 to 7. So make sure that you contact them. Now I'm going to move into the California COVID-19 Rent Relief Program. If you're an income eligible renter who has experienced a financial hardship due to COVID-19 and have past due rent, or you're a landlord who has experienced a loss in income because of unpaid rent, you may be eligible to get financial assistance now through the California COVID-19 Rent Relief Program. The program is not a first come, first serve, and it's rather priority will be given to those households with the greatest risk of being evicted. We also want to encourage you to watch our recorded webinars regarding landlords and renters. That we had a very good discussion on, how to go about your current rent situation. For those who can apply into this program, it applies to residential landlords and renters. Again, residential landlords and renters. Landlords who have income eligible renters experiencing a financial hardship due to COVID-19 with past due rent. You can review the eligibility on the website. for landlords. Also, renters who have experienced a financial hardship due to COVID-19 and have past due rent or utilities and have a household income that is more than 80% of the area median income. You can also review the full eligibility at the website's renter site. Now, how much rent relief will you get? Landlords can get reimbursed for 80% of past due rent accrued between April 1st, 2020 and March 31st, 2021, if they agree to waive the remaining 20% of unpaid rent. This is why it's important that you watch that recording so that you can see how you can establish that conversation and communication with your landlord, because having that in order is going to facilitate the the process or the communication as far as if your landlord will be willing to to waive the remaining unpaid rent. For those eligible renters whose landlords choose not to participate may still apply on their own and receive 25% of unpaid rent accrued between April 1st, 2020 and March 31st, 2021 through a direct payment to their landlord. If a landlord refuses direct payment, the 25% can be paid to the renter to pay missed rent to their landlord by June 30th, 2021. Paying 25% of past due rent by June 30th, 2021 can help keep renters in their homes under the extended eviction protections provided in SB 91. So remember, there's still a moratorium protecting from eviction. For eligible renters can also receive future rent assistance equal to 25% of their monthly rent to help them stay in their homes, and 100% of up to 12 months of unpaid for future utility bills. You can apply by visiting housingiskey.com or by calling the number here on the screen. The applicants will not be asked about their citizenship, nor will they be required to show proof of citizenship. The first flow of applications will focus on households earning less than 50%, the 56,450 for a household of 4. It will expand to cover those disproportionately impacted by COVID-19 and then to all households earning less than 80%. The resources that you can again visit are the housingiskey.com. You can also call their phone number, and if you need assistance locally, you can also call their number and let them know where you're located. We are also updating the EDC's guide for advisors, landlords, and tenants during COVID-19. So we invite you to also, visit our website to check on that as well. The next program is the second COVID-19 Business Assistance Grant Program. The County of Ventura is launching a second COVID-19 Business Assistance Grant Program for businesses and nonprofit organizations that did not receive a grant during the county's first program in 2020. This is a $5,000 grant that will be awarded to selected organizations that meet the eligibility requirements. The application window is from March 31st at 8 a.m. in the morning till Tuesday, April 6th at 6 p.m. Pre-registration window will be from March 24th to March 30th. However, pre-registration is optional and not required. We encourage you also to visit the vcbusinessgrants.org website for more information. As far as eligibility, you must be negatively impacted by COVID-19. You must have not received an award last year or in 2020, have a physical address and operate in Ventura County. You must have been established and open prior to 2021. Your annual gross revenue should be between 25,000 and 2.5 million. For businesses that were established in 2020 and do not meet the minimum threshold of 25,000, gross revenue will be prorated. So this is where I'm going to just plug in the importance of having your information up to date and ready so that you can provide this documentation. Currently operating, you must be currently operating or have a plan to reopen once the health orders allow. The businesses or nonprofit organizations with multiple entities, franchises, locations, etc., may not submit multiple applications. The organization may submit a single application for the location with the highest annual gross revenue. So if you have multiple locations or multiple businesses, you got to select one of those, the one that makes the most sense to get the assistance for. Business or nonprofits may submit only one application, regardless of the number of owners of the business. Also, make sure that if you have partners, that only one of you is the one submitting the application. Remember, when there's multiple applications for the same organization, it kind of slows down the process. So make sure that you are deciding who's going to be submitting that application. Also, very important, you must be registered at vcreopens.com and have a history of compliance with COVID-19 safety protocols. So if you're a business that has been open, you should have already completed this. This is a requirement to remain open during COVID-19. If you haven't opened but plan to reopen, make sure that you first register here. This is regardless if you're going to apply for this for this assistance program or not. That is one of the requirements by the county. Nonprofit organizations must be 501c3s, 501c6, or 501c19. Churches and other faith-based institutions may also apply. Organizations must attest that it is not an eligible organization type listed below and acknowledge that applicant information is subject to the Public Record Act and must have a business license with the appropriate jurisdiction within Ventura County, if applicable. The required documentation is going to be very similar to most of the programs that are out there. To be eligible, you are going to need the following documents: government issued ID or of the business owner or nonprofit authorized agent, tax returns and attachments filed in 2019 or 2020. Nonprofits must submit a Form 990. If business is exempt from filing any tax returns, a profit and loss or receipts and expenses statement will be required. Proof of physical address within Ventura County. You're going to need to select, one of these from the list: business license, state of California seller's permit, a fictitious business name statement, certificate of organization, articles of incorporation, a utility bill with the business name dated in 2020. You're also going to be required to complete an IRS Form W-9, signed and dated. And for nonprofit organizations, you are going to need to provide your IRS nonprofit determination letter. All right, now I'm going to move really quick into the SBA COVID-19 aiding funds. There are still these programs available. The Paycheck Protection Program, it's still available, and it is going to be available through March 31st. The debt relief on SBA, I'll give you a little update on that. The EIDL or Economic Injury Disaster Loan and the targeted EIDL advance is also still open. And the shuttered venue operations grant is also going to be opening. As far as the SBA debt relief program, there was a new announcement on March 12th that the SBA extended deferment period on all COVID-19 EIDL and other disaster loans. All SBA disaster loans made in calendar year 2020, including COVID-19 EIDLs, will have a first payment due date extended from 12 months to 24 months from the date of the note. So if you're someone that had received an EIDL loan in 2020 and you were coming due from the date of the note to make your first payment, you have some relief now that there's been an extension. Once again, all SBA disaster loans made in calendar year 2020 have that extension. Also, all SBA disaster loans made in calendar year 2021, including EIDL, COVID-19 EIDLs, will have a first payment due date extended from 12 months to 18 months from the date of the note. So if you have not applied for this EIDL loan because you didn't know if you will be open within the year, and you've come after a year and still not open, maybe this is still an option for you. So if you apply for one of these loans, just know that you'll have an extension. You won't have to make a payment until 18 months from the date of the note. For those existing SBA disaster loans approved prior to 2020 in regular servicing status as of March 1st, 2020, you received an automatic deferment of principal and interest payments through December 31st, 2020. This initial deferment period was subsequently extended through March 31st, 2020. An additional 12-month deferment of principal and interest payments will be automatically granted to these borrowers. Borrowers will resume their regular payment schedule with the payment immediately preceding March 31st, 2022. Unless the borrower voluntarily continues to make payments while on deferment, interest will continue to accrue on the outstanding balance. So again, if you received an EIDL loan and you by now probably have received a letter from the SBA letting you know when your first payment would be due, you have an automatic extension. There's nothing you have to do. You don't have to call or contact them. This is something that it's being done automatically. So there's nothing to worry other than to take note of the date of your loan so that you know you have either the 12 or the 24 months from there. Regarding the Paycheck Protection Program, the latest update was that, the SBA released information on the calculation formula for sole proprietors, independent contractors, and self-employed individuals. They released two new applications, one of which includes the calculations for using gross revenue for those who typically file using a Schedule C. The form is to be used for calculating loans amounts based on gross revenue, which is line 7, instead of line 31, which would be your net income, and is only open to sole proprietors, independent contractors, and self-employed individuals. So if you are someone that didn't qualify before, but now looking at your Schedule C in line 31, you have a number there, you do qualify for that, or your loan would be based on that amount. Now I'm going to move into the American Rescue Plan and small business relief. As you know, Congress and President Biden have signed this new American Rescue Plan. Some of the provisions are, some of the key provisions that will aid struggling small businesses are an additional $7.25 billion in funding for the Paycheck Protection Program. The program will also expand its eligibility for nonprofits and digital journalism entities to apply. So if you're a business that did not qualify under the PPP program before, you might now be able to qualify and apply. The PPP still had about 119 billion left in funds from the previous relief package. So we know there's still funds available. An additional 15 billion will go towards the targeted economic injury disaster loans, or those EIDL advances, which provides grants for small businesses in low-income areas. Some of you may have already started receiving, if you are in a low-income area, receiving an invitation from the SBA. There's nowhere that you can go and apply for this targeted EIDL loan. The SBA is contacting those businesses and inviting them to apply. There are definitely, specifications as to what qualifies you for that targeted EIDL advance. There's also guidance on the SBA's website as far as, your location that you can look up there as well to know if you would qualify. However, even if you know or you find out that you do qualify, you still would need to get the invitation from the SBA. So there's nowhere to go and apply for that. But we do know that, there's now been some funds allocated to this program. So we're hoping that, it will get to more businesses. The Restaurant Revitalization Fund, a new grant program, will provide $25 billion in relief funding for small restaurants. We're going to talk a little bit more in detail shortly. These are grants that are going to be available to up to 10 million per entity, with a limit of 5 million per physical location, and entities are going to be limited to 20 locations. Grants may be used for a wide variety of expenses, including payroll, mortgage, rent, utility, supplies, food and beverage expenses, paid sick leave, and operational expenses. The American Rescue Plan Act will also establish another program called the Community Navigator Pilot Program, which is set to increase awareness of and participation in COVID-19 relief programs. The program will set aside 100 million in grants for entities that support its goal. An additional 1.25 billion will be set aside for the Small Business Administration Chartered Venue Grant, and 10 billion will go toward the state small business credit initiative, which will help to fund and strengthen all small business financing programs in the states. We are already seeing, that information. Some of the provisions that are in this program that are not for small business include $300 unemployment payments through September 30th. For stimulus payments, individuals who make up to 75,000 and couples who make up to 150,000 get a full $1,400 check. Those making 80,000 for individuals and 160 for couples will receive a partial check. A $3,000 child tax credit for families with children. For each child under the age of 6, families can receive a credit of up to 3,600. There are also a few new provisions that would strengthen access to healthcare for small business owners, like the Affordable Care Act. Enrollees will pay no more than 8.5% versus 10% before of their income and health insurance premiums. It expands the subsidies available for people earning more than 400% of the federal poverty level, strengthening Medicaid and expanding support for COBRA coverage for those who have been impacted by the pandemic. And these provisions will be temporarily and valid for the next 2 years. So as far as that package, and one of the programs that I know we're going to be looking at closely is the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. And the restaurant industry, more than any other industry in the nation, has suffered the most significant sales and job losses since COVID-19 outbreak began. The new American Rescue Plan established this particular fund within the U.S. Business Administration. This program will be administered by the SBA. So it is not available yet. We are hoping that in the next month or so, we're gonna see more guidance as to where you can apply and how that, all that information. Again, we do know that is going to be administered by the SBA. An eligible business may receive a tax-free federal grant equal to the amount of its pandemic-related revenue loss, calculated by subtracting its 2020 gross receipts from its 2019 gross receipts. If the business is not in operation for the entirety of 2019, the total is the difference between 12 times the average monthly gross receipts for 2019 and the average monthly gross receipts in 2020. Or a formula from the SBA. Again, we're still waiting on more guidance on this. If the business is not in operation until 2020, it can receive a grant equal to the amount of eligible expenses subtracted by its gross receipts received, or again, a formula by the SBA. If the business is not yet in operation as of the application date, but it has made eligible expenses, the grant would be made equal to those expenses. Please note that this pandemic-related revenue losses for businesses are reduced by any amount received from Paycheck Protection Program, your first draw and second draw loans in 2020 and 2021. This is going to be very important when it comes to the calculation of this grant. Grants are not taxed like income, and all normal federal tax deductions are protected. As far as the cover period and eligible expenses, the eligible expenses are those incurred from February 15, 2020 to December 31st, 2021, or a date determined by the SBA. If all grant funds are not spent by the business, or the business permanently closes before the end of the cover period, the business must return unused funds to the Treasury. Please remember that this is, a fund that is for those businesses that are, trying to stay open and plan to continue to stay open. Funds must be spent on payroll, principal or interest on mortgage obligations, rent, utilities, maintenance, including construction to accommodate outdoor seating, supplies such as protective equipment and cleaning materials, normal food and beverage inventory, certain covered supplier costs, operational expenses, paid sick leave, and any other expenses that the SBA determines to be essential to maintaining operations. This, in my opinion, is very similar to the way that you can spend money from the EIDL program or the EIDL loan. As far as the eligibility, the eligible entities will include a restaurant, a food stand, a food truck, a food cart, a caterer, saloon, an inn, a tavern, a bar, a lounge, a brew pub, tasting room, tap room, licensed facility, or premise of a beverage alcohol producer, where the public may taste, sample, or purchase products, or other similar places of business in which the public or patrons assemble for the primary purpose of being served food or drink. So certainly it is designed for restaurants, for those businesses that the clients come to eat there or consume there. They also must own or operate 20 or fewer establishments together with any affiliated businesses, regardless of ownership type of the locations and whether those locations do business under the same or multiple names. As of March 13, 2020, an affiliated business has an equity or right to profit distribution of 50% or more, or has contractual authority to control the direction of the business, provided that such affiliation shall be determined as of any arrangements or agreements in existence as of March 13, 2020. Entities must submit a good faith certification that uncertainty of current that provides uncertainty of current economic conditions makes necessary the grant request to support the ongoing operations, and the entity has not applied for nor received a shutter venue operations grant. This is obviously the shutter venue operation grant is generally for performing arts, live venues, theaters, etc. There's going to be a prioritization for it within the initial 21-day period. The SBA will prioritize awarding grants for small business concerns owned and controlled by women, veterans, or socially and economically disadvantaged small business concerns. Um, what you can do right now to prepare, even though this program is not open yet, because again, they're not accepting applications. Um, you will, it is recommended that you uh, register for a free system for award management or a SAM number by using the following steps to get started. You're going to need to create a login into the login.gov. You're going to need to sign up for a Dun and Brad's street number if you do not already have one. And the website is here on the screen. This typically takes 1 to 2 days to process. You're going to need to register with SAM at sam.gov using your login.gov information. So you're going to need to take those steps in that order. And standard business information, such as your tax ID number. It can take up to 2 weeks to receive your SAM number. And we highly, highly want to highlight this to please not register for a SAM number on any other website or pay for a SAM number. The SAM number is free. So be careful with fraud because it is very important that you know that all of this it has no cost for you to obtain this information. I personally have already assisted a couple of clients with the process, and I would tell you that it's not simple. So it's going to be very important that you have your information handy, all your business information handy, as well as all your financial information handy. I would also encourage you to have your tax information handy because all of that is going to be required when you are registering for SAM. It's not a basic, simple process. So, be patient and seek for help as needed. Once again, we encourage you to work with an accountant to prepare relevant paperwork that clearly shows your gross revenue loss in 2020 as compared to 2019. I believe I showed a sample last time of how you can obtain that information. Of course, for more information on the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, visit restaurantsact.com and review the fund fact sheet, which we can share that link to that fund fact sheet for you to review everything that I just shared with you right now. We still have our local disaster loan options, our EDC Disaster Loan Fund and the Women Economic Ventures. We've restarts loans, as well as if you are looking for any other funding options, please visit the SBA's website and select on the option for funding resources. Definitely don't forget about that. Visit our website for more information and to see the latest in our COVID-19 resources page. And if you need if you need any consulting services regarding not just these programs, but in finance, marketing, operations, legal, human resources, anything and everything related to your business, please remember that we offer no cost consulting services, and please contact us at our hotline. Contact our hotline. And now it's time for the Q&A.
All right. Are you ready, my friend?
I think so. I hope so. Let's see. I'm going to stop sharing.
Awesome. All right. I've got a scenario for you.
Yes.
Sole proprietor with no payroll costs takes first PPP loan based on 2019 gross income. 2019 gross income was 80K, net profit was 50. Owner takes all of the net profit as his pay. 50K averages out to $961 per week if PPP loan is $16,666, and the borrower uses it as owner's compensation share and wants to use it solely for pay and none of the other expenses. What is the minimum covered period that can be claimed and have the loan fully forgiven? That was a lot of information.
So certainly the minimum cover period is going to be the 8 weeks, right? So you have 8 weeks to spend that money. That's in a nutshell, the answer. What's the minimum cover period? The 8 weeks.
And so we have the opportunity either to select the minimum cover, which is 8 weeks, or to do the alternative cover period, right?
Right. Or just you can do 8 to 24 weeks. So any window, any amount of weeks between 8 and 24. So if you use the funds within 10 weeks, that's fine. If you use it within 15 weeks, that's fine. If you would use it all the way to 24 weeks, that's fine. But that's what you get to select, which period from what period to what period.
Great.
Yeah.
Will they accept a 2020 tax return that has been filed for the COVID-19 grant relief?
For the COVID-19 grant relief, it is my understanding that it's the 18 or 19.
18 or 19, not 2020.
19, not 2020.
Thank you. I got my first PPP loan in 2021. Can I get a second one? I did not get one in 2020.
You could, depending on when your covered period ends. So and also when you obtain the loan. So if let's say you applied within that second week of that PPP window, you probably applied, let's say end of January. By now you're nearing the 8 weeks probably. So if you know that before March 31st, you're going to end the 8 weeks, then yes, you can go ahead and apply for a second drop PPP, as long as the periods don't overlap and that you do it before the end of March 31st.
Juliana, do you have a sense on how long the SBA is taking to turn around PPPs? Because I submitted my second drop PPP like 1,000 years ago, and so I'm just curious.
You have so there's a couple of challenges that we've seen. Number one, with the new legislation, one of the areas that the SBA was focusing on was to avoid fraud, because we did see that unfortunately during the first round, there was quite a bit of fraud. So the SBA did announce that it was going to take additional precautions to ensure and validate the applications. That adds to the piece of having to validate. That is one that I would for
Yeah.
sure tell you that slows down the process, which it could be anywhere between 3 to 5 days just from, for the SBA for the bank first to review your file and prepare it and get it, verified so they can send it to the SBA. But then the SBA is now taking also their own
Yeah.
precautions. So I've seen between 3 to 5 days, the quick turnaround. The longer turnaround has been really more, sometimes 2 to 3 weeks. I have
Okay.
clients that we've assisted that have not heard. Now, when I see an issue or not an issue, but when I see a delay more than, the 10 days, the 14 days, it's usually because one of the things that we've experienced is that some of the bigger banks, you know, don't have the latest changes in the legislation. An example of that was, going from being able to apply with the regular forms versus now the Schedule C calculation. We saw that a lot of banks didn't have that new formula. So even if your application was already in and it had not been processed, it was kind of like in the waiting room,
Mhm.
just kind of waiting to be processed. So
Okay.
I one other thing I would say is if you haven't heard and you haven't checked if you've checked with your bank and they have no answer for you, you have not been, if you have not been approved for the loan, if you haven't been told your loan is approved, then that means that you could go and apply through a different bank. But you want to also make sure that you haven't gotten an approval, because if you got an approval, that means the SBA already reviewed that file. And if you applied through someone else, you're not gonna, you might likely get denied because it might be kicked by
Right.
the system.
All right. Thank you.
Mhm.
I am a single member LLC. Back in 2019, I had a partner, but since then I've bought him out and I'm 100% owner. In 2019, we had no employees, only 1099s. We now have 3 employees. Our 2019 taxes were filed under the IRS Form 1065, not a Schedule C. I seem to meet all of the criteria for the PPP, low income, over 30% reduction of income, etc. I have tried to apply for the PPP through my bank and Wombly, maybe that's an online bank,
Mhm.
but I have not received any responses from either. Do I qualify for PPP?
So what I would first ask is, I understand that you had a partnership and you filed your 1065. However, the next step would be when you look at your personal 1040 taxes, do you have a Schedule C? Because if your partnership income is reported under a Schedule C, then that's the way that you want to go through for applying under this new change. So take a look at your personal taxes and see how those are reported. If you are not filing a Schedule C filer personally, right? Because again, your 1065 info will, roll over into your Schedule C. That's the way to go. Otherwise, what I would encourage you is to go more with a local bank. Someone like Montecito Bank and Trust, they're doing an amazing job, and they are there to help. And if you have any questions, they'll be happy to look into that information for you. So certainly look at those 2 areas.
I've heard such good things about people getting funded from Montecito. They're working really hard.
They
So,
are. They are.
and I believe they're one of the ones where you don't need to have an account with them. Is that still true?
That is correct, and that's actually something to highlight about a community bank. This is why at the beginning, community banks were giving that window to give those types of banks priority. And also, one of the things I've experienced, Montecito has a very easy to navigate website, very simple, straightforward. I think it's only about 5 pages at the most, and the uploading process takes almost no time. So I would say definitely if you're having trouble, you haven't heard, I mean, Montecito will stop accepting applications on March 25th. So I would highly encourage you to, go to their website, apply. Again, be careful that you have not been approved by your current bank, because if you've been approved, then there may be an issue there.
Got it. Thank you.
Mhm.
I applied for the Target Idle grant 3 weeks ago. Last year, I did receive a $1,000 grant, and I am in the low income area. I did receive an EIDL loan 3 weeks ago after being denied for 2020. My targeted advance grant says in process on my loan portal. I've called the SBA and they just say that my grant is still being processed. I did receive the California Relief Grant, and someone told me that if you received that grant, you will not get a targeted EIDL. But I've also haven't been able to confirm that information.
I don't think that is true, mainly because again, these are two separate programs. These are not in conjunction with each other. You do in the California Relief Grant, you are asked if you've been given other assistance. Really, most portals are asking if you've received assistance. That's not a reason for you to be, disqualified. It's mainly for data purposes, for information purposes, so that we know, how many individuals have received, the different resources or have taken advantage of the different resources. But the targeted, EIDL advance is not, connected with the California Relief Grant.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
Does the COVID-19 rent relief program apply to commercial property renters?
Can you repeat that question?
Does the COVID rent relief program apply to commercial renters?
It's mainly for residential properties.
Okay, thank you. Clarification question for the Ventura County Business Grant. I own an exercise studio that I closed the physical space in April 2020, and now I'm teaching everything online, primarily to Ventura County residents. And I will continue to teach classes online, which makes her a home-based business. Since I'm in Ventura County, does that qualify me for the grant?
Yes, because you are, servicing Ventura, you are based out of Ventura. And if if you're a home-based business, that's okay. Just remember that you still need to, follow the different protocols as far as, making sure that you're registered with the, with VC reopens, and that you have a business license and all that good stuff that makes you a business or an official business.
Yeah, and my business is home-based as well. And so I felt very silly filling out like the COVID, like the reopening plan. And so just know that you're going to put really silly answers for that, because they're going to ask you how are you going to keep your customers and employees safe? And you're just going to have to say 100 times, we're a home-based business. We have no interaction with the public. So just know that. And then when you're filling out the application for the grant, your business address will be your home address.
Correct.
Cool. For COVID EIDL loans, we will receive documentation by mail of this. Will we receive documentation of the payment deferment? And so, yes. So if you got an EIDL loan, will you get physical documentation that the repayment deferment was extended?
Most likely not. And I'm only saying most likely not. When COVID hit last year, there was no documentation that went out to the current or to the existing EIDL loan recipients or EIDL loan holders, right? Borrowers. So most likely not. It is an automatic deferment. There's really nowhere that you can call other than whoever, however if you've started making payments and they've given you a contact, name or number, you can call them and check with them. But no, you don't need to, because again, it is a public announcement or legislation.
Okay, yeah, and I got notice that I needed to start making payments in May, and so I went into the portal and I scheduled my first payment for May. So it sounds like I need to go back and recalculate based on the 24 months when I need to start repayment.
Right. Now, keep in mind, and I did share this, keep in mind that interest will continue accruing and has been accruing. So the fact that you get that deferment of not making payments doesn't mean that you cannot make a voluntary payment. So if you have the ability to do that, we highly encourage you to to do so, because you obviously, are going to have the 15 or 30 years to pay it. And, the sooner you pay it, the better for your business. But again, if you need the relief, it's there. If you don't need the relief, then, then you can go ahead and make voluntary payments. There will be no prepayment penalty for that.
And is this one of those situations where if you have the ability, you need to make your payment, but then you can also do like an additional payment for principal only?
Yes, you can, because again, there's no prepayment penalty. So it is
Great,
encouraged that, if you have the ability to go ahead and start paying that loan back.
great.
Mhm.
I received a PPP first draw as a sole proprietor that was calculated from net income. Is it possible to get the amount adjusted to be based on gross? And how should I do that?
Unfortunately, you can't go back and change the formula unless there was an error in the application. Again, not based on the latest change, but like in the past, and you will need to work that through your lender. So no, there's no, again, unfortunately, there's no like, well, now that it changed, let's go back and change all the loans. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
It's mainly, from here forward, as of March 3rd, which was when it was the announcement, if you had not received a PPP loan, then you can now do it based on the new the new legislation. Now, it's very similar to when those that received a loan prior to June 5th was a 2-year term, versus after June 5th, it was a 5-year term. So now, you couldn't go back and say, well, can I change it? Yes, you can go back to your lender and talk to your lender about changing it from 2 years to 5 years, but it wasn't like just a massive change of everyone, turns into a 5-year. Because remember, the note was, it's being administered by each lender. So you got to work with your lender.
Got it. Thank you. Where do we get more information about the updates or assistance to the ACA healthcare options?
Where do we get
Information. So the legislation that just passed Congress had changes to the ACA, right? And
Right.
I did a quick Google on it and I couldn't find a website that I trusted.
Yeah, unfortunately, remember, these are even though this bill has passed and there's these announcements, it's still working through the process of, really laying down the details on that. Some industries or some, aspects of that legislation have been faster than others, obviously, depending on priority and where there are the resources to go and provide these resources. So I would check with in this case, with your insurance broker, who may have the latest within, within their industry, as far as to, what to look for and how to go about that. That's what I would recommend you do. But again, just keep in mind that there's a lot of relief coming out, or has come out, and yet we don't all have the manpower to just release it. Sometimes all of these announcements come way before there's the mechanisms to really provide all of that. We saw that with this 2-week period of, there was no guidance until March 3rd, which only gave like I don't know, like a 7-day window,
Yeah.
for that guidance.
Well, and I would anticipate too that when we know something, this will be included in one of those EDC email updates.
Yeah.
And so I just want to give a plug to EDC. Those emails are worth my time to read. So I know all of our inboxes are just flooded, but like, prioritize reading those emails. They are to the point. They are up to date. It's going to save you hours of research. So Brina, just keep your eyes out for emails, because I'm sure we would include that.
Yes, and also I want to mention, now that you just said those newsletters or those e-blasts, we certainly all this information that I'm sharing with you has already been shared through those newsletters. So we're hoping that by bringing it to you here, we're putting it all in one place, and then you can refer to this recording, or to be able to go through all of those in one place. So just keep that in mind. We are, we're doing our best to keep up to date with all of these programs and resources.
Yeah, and we've had a couple requests for the PowerPoint. And so we actually don't share the PowerPoint because the information changes so quickly. And so they may be accurate at this moment, but tomorrow it could be inaccurate. And so EDC has all of this information on its website. That is like the most up-to-date place, number one. Number two, we will be sending out a recording of this. So if you're here, you'll get a link to it.
Yes.
Is there a webinar on PPP forgiveness?
Is there? But no, there isn't. Well, actually, I take that back. Yes, the SBA does hold weekly or right now I feel like there's daily webinars. I would encourage you to visit the SBA.gov website and then, click on PPP and you'll see the resources there. You will find, the latest webinars. As a matter of fact, those are the ones that I kind of follow to make sure that, I'm in line and up to date with what the information that they're releasing. However, I will, now that PPP is going to come to an end, we are going to shift some of that information into a loan forgiveness, because we know that that's the next step after you've got your loan. Now the next step is loan forgiveness. Just what I would say regarding loan forgiveness, just keep in mind, that you have 10 months from the date of the end of your covered period. So whatever your covered period was, if it's the 8-week, the 24-week, whatever that is, you have 10 months from that date to request forgiveness. And of course, if you have, any concerns regarding forgiveness, please, reach out to EDC and ask to speak with a financial advisor who can help you navigate through that.
Yep. My understanding is that the 1,400 stimulus check payment had a hard cliff at 80,000 or 160,000, and that you received prorated between 75,000 to 160. So is it true that over those upper threshold limits, you receive a zero stimulus check, right?
I believe so. Yes.
Yep.
I mean, there is a reason that they have those thresholds there.
Yep.
Remember, they're trying to help those most in need.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Bonnie, thanks for doing a great job. Thank you, friend.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a business assistance program in Santa Barbara County? Can you go over what exactly the program is again? So I'm thinking this is like the Ventura County specific COVID grant. So is there a similar program in Santa Barbara?
There are a couple of programs. I don't have those. I know I probably should have included them, but there is definitely a great what's it called? Business alert that went out a couple of weeks ago. And what we can do, I think that if you just visit our website, you'll see everything that's available. I think that's really the best way. But there was one newsletter that went out with a list of everything available in both Ventura and Santa Barbara counties. I don't have those off the top of my head. I apologize. But if I do find them before we leave today, I'll mention those.
Okay, thank you. Who can assist me as a landlord?
Who can assist you as a landlord? It depends on what exactly you're seeking assistance with, right? Are you seeking assistance to, cover some of your lost revenue? Do you qualify under this new, California Relief Rent Program? You might. So if it is regarding that, you obviously, check the website and see if the eligibility and if you would qualify. If you're talking about maybe legal advice as to how to handle a particular renter, or the situation with a particular renter, then obviously that's a bit different. So I would, depending on what type of assistance you need, it'll depend on that. So we do have, legal, one of our legal advisors who can guide you through, how to go about a particular situation. So depending on.
Thank you. For PPP second draw application, is a business considered in operation if the entity was established but without revenue during Q1 and Q2 in 2019? So established in 2019, but no revenue.
Yes, of course. Excuse me. Remember, the provision says that you must have had been established business or in operations by February 15, 2020. So even if you didn't have revenue, because you probably started towards the end of 2019, that's okay. There is obviously under frequently asked questions in the SBA's website, there are how to calculate the maximum loan amount depending on if you started your business at a particular time versus another and such.
Great, thank you. Does the first PPP loan need to be forgiven before applying for the second?
No, it does not. And as a matter of fact, some banks were not accepting or are still not accepting forgiveness applications because they're really focused on their on providing PPP loans. So you don't have to be forgiven in order to apply for that second draw.
Great. Single member LLC. Regarding PPP, I thought the requirement is to use the funds between 8 and 26 weeks, not by 8 weeks. My PP was from Wells Fargo, funded on 2/4/21. I factored that it would be fully exhausted no sooner than the end of April, which is over 8 weeks. Did I misunderstand the 2 to 8 week window?
There's no 2 to 8. It's actually at least 8 weeks, a maximum of 24 weeks. So you have between 8 to 24 weeks to spend those funds or to use those funds.
Well, could you spend it all on day one?
I mean, if it is going to be legitimate as far as, normally you think about it, it was, excuse me, it was designed or it was calculated based on an average monthly payroll. So it is, assumed that you need this particular amount per month to be able to operate or to continue on payroll. Now, keep in mind that there is a requirement to do at least 60% on payroll and 40% in other expenses. So you could essentially, if you're going to be able to provide, documentation stating, that you used it, the right way or for the right purposes.
Yeah, that's your big advice, right? Don't change anything about your business. So like run the same payroll schedule, just like pay it with that money, or like run the same rent payment schedule or whatever. Just don't change anything.
Correct. Don't change anything of your normal operations. Whatever you would have done in the normal, should COVID hadn't happened, I will keep it that way.
Yep. I'm about to apply for my first PPP forgiveness. I received the loan on May 1st, 2020. Can I use a 10-week covered period instead of 8? And can I use it all for payroll?
Yes, on both. You can use it in 10 weeks instead of 8. And I mean, you have 8 to 24 weeks.
Right.
Yeah.
Great.
And all for payroll will ensure that it's forgiven.
Great. I understood that, okay. I understood that you can choose the length of your covered period. My question was, given the numbers I gave you, what would the covered period be to be fully forgiven? In other words, what would be the proper way to distribute the owner's compensation share? Can it be taken in one lump sum from business account to personal account and be used for anything? And your covered period would be 8 weeks, or would you take your loan amount and divide it by your average weekly net profit? So that's kind of sort of what we talked about. So what you recommend is whatever you would have done normally is the way you should spend your PPP. So if you normally would pay yourself, an $18,000 one-time lump sum, then it's okay to do that. But if that's abnormal outside of your normal operating procedures, then don't do that.
So I also want to clarify something here for everyone. If your loan is below 150,000 or less, you are only required to certify that you use the funds the way that they were intended to be used, or the way that they were, that you certified you were going to use the funds that way. So as far as how you use the money, meaning, if you do it all in one check, or if you do it in weekly checks or monthly checks, at the end of the day, number one, you're going to be asked to certify that you use it the correct way. Number two, you're not going to be required for documentation, except if your account is selected or some of the banks I've seen that they're requesting it, even if the SBA is not requesting it. Because again, the simplified form made it simple so that you could just certify that, you were, that you had used the funds the way that they were intended. Now, it is recommended that you provide them regardless, right? And again, make sure that you have all of that in order, that you're going to be able to provide proof and documentation of how those funds were used. Also, if you're still not 100% certain, check with your lender. Your lender is actually the one that's going to take a look at how you use the funds, how you respond to the application. They're going to be the ones acting on your behalf to go before the SBA to get your loan forgiven. So if they are okay with the practice that decide to take, then most likely it will be okay. So again, like Emily said, just do what you would have normally done.
Yep. What is a COVID EIDL loan?
A COVID EIDL loan is the economic injury disaster loan. This type of loan, or before COVID, there was an economic injury disaster loan provided by the SBA. It was funded by them and administered by the SBA for those businesses that had suffered some type of injury or disaster. Emily has shared here in the past that you went through the Thomas fire and the EIDL was already an existing loan and you were able to take one of those.
Mm-hmm.
So the COVID is specifically due to COVID. So it's the same idea of an injury disaster loan, but it's specifically related to COVID. So if you were, let's say, not impacted by COVID, we all were. So, you qualify under that one. After COVID, which, as we know, this loan is going to be open through December 31st, 2021. So you have until December 31st, 2021. After that, if there's no extension to that program, then that means we're going to go back to regular economic injury disaster loan. This is when you suffer any type of disaster within your business.
Great, thank you. What is the status of PPP loan forgiveness applications, and will both PPP Draw 1 and 2 subject to forgiveness, and if so, how much?
So the status, again, every bank has their own time frames of when they are accepting PPP forgiveness applications. What I have seen is some banks are processing both, like they're processing the PPP loan forgiveness and they're also processing the second draw PPP loan. I've seen some banks that are not accepting forgiveness applications. They're just focused on second draw. The portals that I've been able to assist with all have either the PPP forgiveness and the loan in the same portal, or I have seen also other banks that have their own PPP forgiveness portal and their own PPP loan. So as far as what's the status, I mean, every bank, depending who your lender is, has a different time frame of when they're and how and when they're processing those applications.
Yeah, I think for all of the PPP questions, it's a go talk to your lender, because they are each handling it subtly differently. And it really is from the lender. It's not from, the SBA. The SBA gave the lenders the money, but then the lender is the one who you apply directly to the lender and you ask for forgiveness directly to the lender.
Correct.
I'm a certified WBEC, operate as a sole proprietor LLC, and have not taken an income, but reinvested in the company. As a result, I've received a very small PPP as a result of submitting all documentation. The combined PPPs don't cover 3 months of rent, no income. We are located in a low income area in Moore Park, and primary business is supply kitchenware to the hospitality industry. I've applied for the California relief, but have been waitlisted. I'm not sure what else I can do to find additional resources.
Well, she said Moore Park.
Mm-hmm.
Did she receive the grant last year? I don't remember you mentioned that.
She said she applied for the California relief.
Right. And then as far as I would ask, have you applied for the for the Ventura County grant. I would, if you haven't applied, I would encourage you to do that. That there's, $5,000 there if you are selected. Also, the EIDL loan is an option. So if you
Yeah.
have, cost of goods sold in your business, you can, the calculation for that is 6 months of your average monthly cost of goods sold. So look at your, at that line item of cost of goods sold, see what that number, is, and multiply that by 6. And that's the amount that you might be eligible. You could be eligible to apply. Now, I didn't get what type of entity is she? Is she a sole proprietor?
It says sole proprietor LLC, but I think you can't be both.
You can. That's what I was saying. As a matter of fact, I know that there was some clarification. I know that when you can be an LLC and file as a Schedule C filer. So if you are a Schedule C filer, then all you need is that Schedule C that shows your gross revenue. Now, if you've already applied for loan 1 and 2, unfortunately, you can't apply for a third one.
Okay. And I just want to speak like business owner to business owner. Going through Thomas Fire and Montecito mudslides and Hill Woolsey and Borderline, and like I saw all of these loan programs and I'm like, I'm a successful business owner. I don't need loans. Like, I don't need handouts. And like, I don't want to take on debt and all that stuff. And I hung on till the very end. And it was a huge mistake. Like, I have an EIDL loan. I have a recovery loan from EDC for the Thomas Fire. Like, that's why these programs are here, and they exist because we want all of you to still be in business. And so I just want to like humanize this a little bit and say how embarrassed I was to ask for help and to have to like carry those loans on the books. And I don't know if my company would be here if I didn't get that EDC Thomas Fire loan. And so like, just like if you're concerned about it or want to know what implications it could have on like the financial health of your company, call EDC, call the hotline, and like let's talk it through.
And I thank you for mentioning that. As far as, I'm going to put my advisor hat. One of the things that I do when I meet with a client for the first time and they are coming, distressed because they don't know where to go. They don't know how to, what to do. They need money. The first thing I look at, or, it's like, well, first of all, we need to understand how the business was doing before this. Right? Understand how it is, how it was. Because if we don't understand how it was, and then COVID came and obviously made it worse than it already was, or because of COVID, it didn't go well, then we take a look at, let's look at how it was before. Was it working? Was it functioning? Did you know, what your margins were? Did you know? And we kind of dig through that first and find that really the root of the problem was not COVID, that it was before, right? And then, I get to educate my clients on, what to look for, how to really interpret the numbers that, are on their books, how to really, understand the operations of their business. How is it costing them? How is it not? I mean, we have to really look at the whole picture. I know that right now, businesses are very distressed because of COVID, and we know that, and this is why these programs are available. However, we've also learned that because, that the most impacted were those that were already, struggling before the pandemic. And so the ones that needed the most help are the ones that needed the help before COVID. So this is where then we can create a plan as to how do we recover if we are not able to take advantage of all these programs right now because our numbers don't reflect it. How can we recover? Are we able to recover? Can we have an honest conversation about that? I always tell my clients, what's your plan with this business, right? Is this a business that, that you're planning to grow? Is this a business that is only providing you a job? Is this a business that, that it's a hobby? Depending on where what that question is, then we go about, again, digging for more, looking for more, assistance, looking for ways, do we want to put more debt on your business? Maybe that's not the solution. And maybe, it is, again, I'm having the advisor hat on. Maybe it is not really a good idea, and it is good that you don't qualify for an idle loan, because putting that debt onto your business, it's gonna not make it survive beyond a year, beyond 2 years. So
Yeah.
it is really, when you come to financial advisors, we're gonna make you work, but we're gonna hold your hand. So don't feel like you're going to, well, I'm not gonna go because I don't want to hear what I already know. Well, it's okay. You can hear what you already know, but let's find a solution of how we are going to, walk out of this, or, recover, survive, from this. So
Yeah.
very important to be okay with being uncomfortable.
Mhm. And so I just want to tick through the programs on the books right now. We've got PPP first and second. We've got an EIDL loan, the County of Ventura $5,000 grant, the California Relief Grant. The EDC has a disaster loan program. Weave, Women's Economic Ventures, has a disaster loan program. What am I forgetting? Is that it for now?
I think for right now, for most of the local businesses, right? There has been other grants that have been, become available. I know that, Edison had one, grant available. And again, understanding where you stand financially, right? Again, pre-pandemic, beyond pandemic, even if you get all of this assistance, is that still beyond COVID? Is that still, how long is it going to take you to recover, to get back to normal? Based on that is where you're going to know if your business can take on debt or not, because you can get all this assistance for now, but that does not necessarily mean that come 2, 3, 5 years from now you're going to be okay. So please, 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 please take advantage of the no consulting services to walk through all your situation, like take a look at the different areas that you should look into your business. We have had clients who didn't have a website, or didn't have social media, or didn't have, and just by doing those changes, implementing that, which had nothing to do with
Mhm.
resources or COVID, just simply the fact that they added that, their business recovered, just because they made those little changes. But again, you have to understand where you stand to be able to know what type of changes you need to make.
Yep, yep, yep.
We did share. I just want to really quick say we did share the two programs that are available in Santa Barbara County, which is the County of Santa Barbara Rental and Utility Grant. This is an emergency rental and utility assistance for eligible County of Santa Barbara residents that have experienced a loss of income due to COVID-19 and can demonstrate the need for rental support. And we put the link to that website for more details. Also, the COVID-19 joint response effort for Santa Barbara County grants to individuals for those disproportionately impacted by COVID-19 and the economic consequences of the pandemic. So again, also the website is on there for you to look into those, for those that were asking about what was available in Santa Barbara.
Great. One more follow-up question, trying to confirm that this PPP will be forgiven. So the real numbers are, my weekly average net profit was $961, but I used $16,666 loan with an 8-week cover period. That would be averaged out to $2,083 a week. Would that be fully forgiven? It's in the Q&A if you want to see those
Yeah,
numbers.
it sounds like it would, because
Mhm.
again, as long as you have proof that the funds were used the way that they were supposed to. And what I mean again by that is, if you're a sole proprietor and you normally, this is the net income of your business is what you use to survive or to live, right? Then you would have paid that to yourself. As a sole proprietor, sometimes we pay ourselves more than more than other weeks, depending on how the income is. So again, as long as it's within the normal, it sounds to me that yes, your loan would be forgiven, because it was based uh, on your Schedule C calculation. So I don't think there's any issues there. Just be prepared to have documentation. Documentation for sole proprietors it's going to be their tax return. It's also going to be, either canceled checks or bank statements where they can show how they transfer money from their business account to their personal account. Now, if you didn't have both, then you're going to need to show, when you received the funds and then how you used it. So the historical data from, the day you received the funds all the way to, the end of that 8-week period or 24, whatever date. And also, again, check with your lender to see what type of documentation they're going to request or require for you to send them.
And if you don't have 2 separate accounts, that is your homework for today. Have a business account and a personal account. Okay, we have come to the end, my friend.
Did we answer all the questions?
We did it. So thank you everyone for being here. Please, please, please call EDC. They are here to assist you. I'm an EDC client, like they're incredible. We're changing our schedule. So if you're here, you'll get an email invite for the next one. And my team is telling me to do something.
Yeah, and I can tell you, definitely, we already know we have April 9th on the calendar. So save the date for April 9th. Send us your questions so that we can, tackle them here.
And so the EDC phone number is 805-409-9159. So again, 805-409-9159. And Juliana, you want to direct people in Spanish for that Spanish number?
Sí, claro que sí. Para los que están aquí que hablan español y necesitan ayuda, por favor, nos pueden llamar al 805-309-5874 para pedir la ayuda de un asesor que pueda ayudarles en su propio idioma con cualquiera de estos problemas o preguntas que tengan sobre estos recursos disponibles. Muchas gracias. También les quiero decir que el 24 de marzo a las 5:30 de la tarde vamos a tener un seminario a través de Santa Barbara SCORE. County, and vamos a poder darles más información. Voy a compartir toda la información que acabo de compartir hoy. I just did a plug for a webinar that I'm doing in Spanish. As a matter of fact, EDC is holding a webinar for the the Ventura County grant specifically for child care facilities or organizations, and we're going to have the one in Spanish on Tuesday, and on Wednesday another Spanish through SCORE. It's kind of like this version but in Spanish. But also EDC Claire will be doing the webinar for the Ventura County grant for child care facilities or businesses. It will be on Wednesday as well. So please visit our website for the latest in the webinars, either the recordings or for the upcoming events. Thank you so much for joining us. And remember, you're not alone. We're here to hold your hand. Just give us a call. Thank you.
See ya.
All right. Bye.